I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for being here. We begin with the anticipation for the first, possibly only, presidential debate between Vice President Harris and former President Trump. Just one day to go before the showdown. Both sides are in serious prep mode while still on the trail for meet and greets and rallies.
The two presidential hopefuls are locked in a tight race. The latest New York Times Siena College poll has Donald Trump at 48% among likely voters and Kamala Harris 1 point behind at 47%. The poll falls within the margin of error. We have team coverage heading into this potentially make-or-break debate. NBC's Monica Alba covers the White House for us, and NBC News correspondent Dasha Burns is tracking the Trump campaign. Monica, if we do have you, we will start with you. This is the first time we're going to see Vice President Harris and former President Trump together on the debate stage. What are the expectations her campaign is setting for her? How is the Veep preparing?
Yeah, it's interesting, Joe and Savannah, because Vice President Harris and former President Trump have never met. They've never spoken in person. They've been in the same room only when she was a senator, and she attended a couple of his State of the Union addresses when he was president. But apart from that, she's really been studying all that he has said publicly over the last many years. And her campaign is trying to lower expectations by pointing out the fact that Donald Trump is one of the most experienced debaters in presidential history. He's participated in far more than she ever has because she hasn't, as a nominee, obviously, done one of these general election debates. So they're trying to cast her as the underdog and saying that really they're taking this very seriously and they want to draw a very sharp contrast between their two visions. While the Harris campaign is also complaining still about some of those debate rules that both teams agreed to back when it was the Biden campaign and that June debate, specifically when it comes to the microphones, saying that they wished that they weren't going to be muted when it wasn't Donald Trump's turn to speak, because they argue they want Americans to be able to hear everything he might say, as, quote, unhinged as it may be, according to some of the aides familiar with her preparations.
Dasha, let's bring you in here. We know the former president is taking a different path with his preparation. What's been the feeling inside the Trump camp heading into the debate?
Oh, yeah, you couldn't have two more different approaches here, Savannah. Look, the former president basically kind of prides himself on the idea that he doesn't do traditional debate prep. He says campaigning is his debate prep, that he has been holding some informal policy sessions with his staffers, with his allies, folks like former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. She's been someone who's been really valued because she has been on a debate stage with Vice President Kamala Harris back during the 2020 race, and she created a moment with her. She went after Harris's prosecutorial record. She got some traction with that, and so she's been part of this preparation for former President Trump. But again, he has been out on the campaign trail. He's been pounding the pavement rather than hunkered down in the way that Harris has been.
So, Dasha, that New York Times Siena College poll, which made a lot of headlines over the weekend, it says voters are focused on the economy, on abortion, and the border. Two of those are issues that really could help the former president, but there's been some concern among Republicans that he won't be able to resist delving into those personal attacks against the vice president. How is the Trump team working to try and keep him on message? Can they?
In short, no, only he can, and his team knows that. Look, there is no controlling former President Trump. They can only try to channel his energy towards the policy rather than the personal. And this has been the mantra, both behind closed doors and out on the airways from his allies, saying, focus on the policy. They're trying to put stuff in front of him that is about his record, the things that voters respond positively to that he did under his first administration, the things that he is planning to do in his second administration. But we know that the Harris team is preparing to kind of goad him to try to get some of those inflammatory reactions out of him for voters to see. So we'll see whether or not they'll be successful. It really is the question of which Trump walks out there. You saw in the Biden debate, he was a little bit more restrained and kind of let the attention fall to President Biden. It was a tough debate for him, and he stood back. The question is, will he be able to do the same, kind of reel himself in from those more bombastic instincts, or is he going to be sort of full-fledged Trump in the way that we've seen recently?
Monica, the Harris campaign picked up an endorsement also from former Republican Vice President Dick Cheney, calling Trump specifically a threat to our republic. Here's the thing, though, right? Cheney's not a well-regarded figure in many left-leaning political circles. So what is the Harris campaign saying about that specific endorsement?
Yeah, and the fact that it came because his daughter, Liz Cheney, had endorsed Vice President Harris was also something of a really interesting development last week, because we know that the Harris campaign has been courting some of these Republicans for a couple of months. They've been doing outreach to these conservative leaders because they feel like they can offer this permission structure perhaps to other independents or to those right-leaning Americans who are considering who maybe wouldn't vote for Donald Trump. But we heard a little bit more from the vice president herself this weekend while she was in debate prep in Pittsburgh on what that endorsement meant to her and to her campaign. Listen.
I'm honored to have their endorsement, and I think that what they both, as leaders who are well respected, are making an important statement that it's okay, and if not important, to put country above party.
And they had a few other Republican voices speak out on her behalf during the Democratic National Convention. And I'm told the campaign is still trying to reach out to some others who may back her at some point in these final weeks as well.
Monica Alba and Dasha Burns, one day ahead of the big debate. Thank you both.
And let's turn now to the Middle East, where at least 3 Israeli civilians were murdered by a gunman at a border crossing with Jordan along the occupied West Bank. He was then shot and killed by Israeli security forces.
The incident is the first attack of its kind along the Jordanian border since Hamas carried out the deadly assault on October 7th, sparking the war in Gaza. This morning, we're also learning about a rising death toll in Syria following overnight Israeli strikes.
NBC News International correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us from Tel Aviv with the latest. Raf, good morning. Let's start with those airstrikes in Syria. What do we know about what the targets were, and how do these strikes fit into the overall conflict?
Savannah, Joe, good morning. This was an intense series of strikes in western Syria. A Syrian monitoring group says the target appears to have been a research center in the province of Hama, as well as a series of Iranian weapon depots. Syrian state media that at least 14 people were killed, dozens more injured. Now, the Israeli military is not commenting. They are neither confirming nor denying that they were responsible for these attacks, but that is in line with their long-standing policy. And the big picture here, guys, is that Israel has been striking in Syria since well before October 7th, and the goal has been to try to stop Iran from entrenching itself in Syria, to try to disrupt the flow of Iranian weapons to its proxies all across the Middle East. But that Israeli air campaign, much of it done by stealth, has taken on a new importance, especially in light of the threat that Hezbollah, that Iranian-backed militant group in southern Lebanon, poses towards Israel as it continues to fight in Gaza and in the occupied West Bank. Guys.
Raf, there's just so much going on in this region. Let's focus in on the West Bank Jordan border. As we said, officials say at least 3 Israelis were killed by a gunman. Walk us through what happened here. What more do we know about the shooter, and also about the border crossing where this took place?
So, Joe, this took place at the Allenby Bridge. This is one of the major crossings from Jordan into the occupied West Bank. And Israeli authorities are saying that the shooter was a Jordanian national. He arrived in a truck to that border crossing, and then he opened fire with a pistol. He killed at least 3 Israeli workers who were on that site, all of them men in their 50s and in their 60s, before he was then killed by Israeli security forces. Now, as you said, this is an unusual incident. We haven't seen a lot of violence along the border there. Both Israel and Jordan are investigating. The border was closed yesterday. It has now reopened. But this is a reminder of just the scale of the anger towards Israel across the Middle East, not just from Palestinians, that a Jordanian national would carry out this attack. Guys.
But Raf, this also comes just days after an American was killed in the West Bank while participating in a protest. The White House is now requesting an investigation over that. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Savannah, 26-year-old Aisha Noor Agi, she was from Seattle. She was killed on Friday while protesting against Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank. And eyewitnesses who were with her say that she was killed by Israeli forces. They say that she was not armed, that the scene was quiet at the time, that there was no justification for this shooting. The Israeli military says that they are investigating this incident. They aren't giving a definitive answer answer one way or another. The White House says it's concerned. It wants to hear from the Israeli government. But Agi's family is saying it simply does not trust the outcome of an Israeli investigation. It wants President Biden to launch an independent American probe. And Agi is at least the third American killed reportedly by Israeli fire in the occupied West Bank this year. And there hasn't been a whole lot of accountability in either of the two previous cases, which is raising concerns there may not be here either. Guys.
All right, Ralph Sanchez, thank you very much for your reporting.
The West Coast is getting hit with a 1-2 punch. More than a dozen wildfires are burning out of control, fueled by dangerous and potentially deadly high temperatures. Right now, more than 14 wildfires are burning across California, like the Line fire near Los Angeles. It's so intense that, like many massive fires we've seen in recent years, it's creating its own weather pattern.
This is prompting Governor Gavin Newsom to declare a state of emergency, with thousands of residents forced to leave their homes. In the Clear Lake area, that's west of Sacramento, more than 30 homes have been either damaged or destroyed. And the story is the same in neighboring Nevada, which is also under a state of emergency. A wind-driven wildfire near Reno has already destroyed several homes and continues to spread.
We're covering this story from all angles. Dr. Vin Gupta is going to join us in a moment to talk about the dangers of this deadly heat wave. Meteorologist Ryan Hanrahan is also standing by with a look at the dangerously warm temps across parts of the country. But we begin with NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin. She is in Highland, California, east of Los Angeles, with the latest on the fires. Dana, good morning.
Joe, good morning to you. The biggest challenge right now is the fire's unpredictability. Behind me, you can see we've got flare-ups just along this ridge. And between the extreme heat, steep terrain, and lightning, fire officials say they are prioritizing saving lives first and then homes. This morning, thousands have been forced to evacuate their homes as the Line fire in the San Bernardino National Forest quickly spreads. The blaze quadrupling over the weekend to more than 20,000 acres, threatening 35,000 homes and buildings.
So it started getting thick in the air. You started seeing chunks of bark and things that were flying that had been burned. And at that point, we decided that this is not a good place to be.
The area, located in the mountains 60 miles east of Los Angeles, has been dealing with a sweltering heat wave recently, with record-breaking temperatures in the triple digits. Thunderstorms bringing gusty winds and lightning, making the job for firefighters more difficult. You can hear the thunder nearby. This is making the firefight challenging because lightning can spark a new fire at any moment.
That's the problem with this fire, is we can't predict where it's going to go next.
Governor Gavin Newsom proclaiming a state of emergency Sunday, freeing up funds to bring in critically needed resources. Meanwhile, a new blaze in Northern California is also spreading quickly. The Boyles fire has burned dozens of structures and forced more than 4,000 people to evacuate. Now firefighters statewide hoping a break in the weather will help them get the upper hand. Now, the searing heat wave is expected to continue through today. Cooler temperatures, though, are likely to arrive tomorrow, which could make a big difference in this firefighting activity. Joe, Savannah?
Yeah, we can only hope that's the case. All right, Dana, thank you so much.
Yes, and please stay safe. Well, California is in the middle of a heat wave that's bringing these triple-digit temperatures. Let's see if there's any relief in sight and check on your Morning News Now weather.
Yeah, Chief Meteorologist Ryan Hanrahan from NBC Connecticut joins us with the forecast. Ryan, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Good morning, Savannah. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, the scorching heat continues in Southern California especially, but it looks like today is going to be the last really hot day. I think things really begin to improve by tomorrow and Wednesday. For today, though, we have an excessive heat warning in effect for Southern California from Los Angeles all the way down to San Diego. And with that fire that is burning up in San Bernardino County, the Line fire, 21,000 acres so far have been burned. The wind today is going to be offshore, so it's going to be blowing from San Bernardino County down toward Los Angeles and Orange County. So that is going to create an issue with air quality today because all that smoke is in the air. Also, the heat continues across Southern California, so unhealthy air quality will be a concern from L.A. all the way almost down towards San Diego. Now, the warmth is slowly moving to the east, so we get a bit of a break in Southern California, but the heat is going to slide toward the plains in the Midwest. So for today, and look at this, Rapid City, South Dakota, up to 96 degrees, 92 degrees in Dodge City, Kansas, and that heat continues to build over the coming days. For tomorrow, temperatures will be up around 90 degrees in Denver. We'll see temperatures in the mid-80s for Chicago. And as you take a look at the forecast for later on this week in the Northeast especially, just some gorgeous September weather. Temperatures in D.C. between 80 and 85 Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Same deal in New York City. Now, down in the tropics, we've got a new tropical system that is developing. It's south of Texas right now, but it is expected to become a tropical storm later today. Winds already 50 miles per hour. The storm is expected to strengthen as it moves to the north, and the National Hurricane Center is predicting it will become a hurricane by Wednesday, making landfall somewhere in upper Texas, probably just east of Houston and Galveston. But that will put Louisiana sort of right in the center of that storm track. Heavy rain, strong winds, and storm surge flooding will all be a concern as the storm moves to the north. And guys, if it gets a name, and it most likely will later today, it's going to be Tropical Storm Francine.
And that area has been getting plenty of rain lately.
They sure have. They're going to get a lot more with this one.
All right, Ryan, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Now for a closer look at how this dangerous weather can impact our health, we want to bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Vin Gupta. He joins us with more on that. Dr. Gupta, good to have you with us. So let's start with the big question. And I know it varies on who you are, but how hot is too hot for people to safely be outside for extended periods in heat like this?
Well, Joe, good morning. Really, you want to look at not just the heat, but you want to look at humidity. So-called heat index. It's not something that we track often, but something, any humidity level, say above 65%, coupled with a temperature 85 degrees or higher. That combination, Joe, is really going to impair somebody's ability to sweat off heat. That's when we really start to worry.
Dr. Gupta, I know you've treated heat-related medical issues before. What are some of the signs to look out for if somebody is experiencing a heat-related injury or emergency?
Yes, Savannah, really critical question here. So signs of heat stress, hot skin, confusion, irritability even, maybe even GI upset, but all the way over to heat stroke. That's when you really worry about loss of consciousness, somebody going from hot skin to cold and clammy skin. So it's that continuum here, and especially if you have young kiddos at home, kiddos going from active, highly energetic to just not as energetic, lethargic. You really want to look at energy level in children especially, or your older neighbors. That's a key sign that heat stroke or heat stress might be really setting in.
Obviously, we all know how dangerous the sun can be during the day. Usually, cooler temperatures set in at night, which can bring some relief. But I know there's new data that suggests that hasn't necessarily been the case this summer. So how much hotter are the nights getting? What are some of the problems that's creating?
Well, this is where it's really worrisome. In the Southwest, we're seeing places like Reno over the last 40 years. The lows in a place like Reno have increased on average by almost 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Places like Las Vegas, almost 10 degrees Fahrenheit. These are pretty extraordinary numbers here. Pretty much all across the Southwest into the Southeast, we're seeing an increase, almost 80% increase in the cities that have been studied, Joe. Their nighttime lows have increased by 5 degrees or higher. That's causing a lot of stress on the human body.
Tell us more about that from a health standpoint. Why does the night remaining so warm cause such concern?
Yes, Savannah, see, what we're seeing here is if you have daytime heat, that's one thing. But then we expect that at night it's going to cool down our heart and our lungs, which get stressed in a lot of heat. We'll have a chance to really recover, frankly, just be able to go back to equilibrium. That's happening in a place like Las Vegas or Reno, where the nighttime heat is compounding the daytime heat. And that's what we're seeing. Studies have shown that when you have nighttime heat really spike, death rates from heat stroke are almost 50% higher. So that's the concern here.
Dr. Vin Gupta, as always, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
The manhunt continues in Kentucky this morning. Police are looking for a gunman suspected of opening fire on multiple drivers along the highway over the weekend. This morning, we're learning more details about the suspected gunman who allegedly fired at 12 vehicles on the interstate about 75 miles south of Lexington on Saturday.
Police have now identified the suspect as 32-year-old Joseph Couch, who was not believed to be inside a vehicle at the time of the alleged shootings. 5 people were wounded. All of them are now in stable condition.
NBC News correspondent Priya Sridhar is in London, Kentucky, with the latest on the search. Priya, good morning. So police say they've recovered an AR rifle and a vehicle from the scene, but they say they still consider the suspect to be armed and dangerous. What more are we learning?
Absolutely, guys. So they are looking for 32-year-old Joseph A. Couch, who is described as a 5'10" white male weighing around 154 pounds. And we did learn more information overnight as to exactly what happened on Saturday. They say that Joseph Couch came here to London, Kentucky, where he legally purchased an AR-15. And then hours later, he drove over to Interstate 75, exit 49, parked that vehicle that they have since recovered near a hiking trail or a service road, and then walked over to a ledge underneath a cliff and used that AR-15 that has now also since been recovered to open fire on random cars that were passing on both the north and the southbound lanes on Interstate 75. They said, as you mentioned, that he struck about 12 cars and seriously injured about 5 people. And we also are learning a little bit more information about his background. Joseph A. Couch was a 4-year member of an engineering battalion in the National Guard, guys.
Priya, how's the community reacting to this, and what do we know about the victims who were shot?
Absolutely. Well, I can say that the community is really on edge. This is kind of a rural county, Laurel County. It's in between Lexington and Knoxville. And as you can imagine, nothing like this has ever happened around here. And a lot of people are searching for answers as to why this could have happened. The schools here are closed today, and out of an abundance of caution, many churches were closed yesterday. But authorities did tell us that there were some curiosity seekers who were heading close to the scene, trying to discover what they could. So they really are urging people to stay away from that area. They do believe that he is still near there. Now, as far as the victims go, we know that out of the 5 people who were shot, some were shot in the face, the chest, and the arm. And as of last night, they were all still in the hospital recovering. We know that 4 of them were from Kentucky and 1 of them was from out of state. Let's take a listen to what the mayor here in London, Kentucky had to say about how people are doing.
My heart is to see that my community is whole again, that people understand that this travesty, this act of violence doesn't define us as a community. We're a resilient community, and I hate that the citizens are having to go through the emotions of fear and frustration because someone chose violence.
So now that the sun is coming up here today, the search will resume, and authorities are really hoping that they're going to be able to track him down today, guys.
You know, Priya, many of us remember that wild manhunt last year in Pennsylvania. Police had to comb through heavily wooded areas for nearly 2 weeks to try and find that escaped prisoner. This is a different sort of scenario, but also you still are dealing with the woods, with a rural area. Police mentioned some of the challenges they're facing while trying to search this terrain.
Absolutely. Well, it's very similar to what you described. It's very densely wooded, and they described even using machetes to try to get through that densely wooded area. It's also incredibly vast. They said thousands of acres, and they believe that he could be hiding anywhere behind a tree or even in a crevice. One of the other big challenges is that the foliage overhead is really preventing them from being able to detect him potentially from something like a helicopter or a drone. They also say they haven't ruled out the possibility that perhaps he could be not in that wooded area. So they are soliciting tips from the public and trying to track all of those leads down. And in addition to that, guys, we did ask them, is there a possibility that he perhaps took his own life? And they said that that is still something that they are considering. Guys.
All right. Priya, thanks so much for your reporting throughout the weekend and this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.